Adverse Event Monitoring for CRAs. My name is Marla Helly, and I will be your trainer today. It is my pleasure to have you join us for today's webinar. A little bit about me. I worked as a clinical research nurse. Initially, that's how I got into clinical research, working for a large academic center. And then I worked also as a staff research nurse for a private oncology practice. I truly enjoyed working in clinical research, but decided that I wanted to also work on the sponsor CRO side. So I have also worked for a CRO, I should say several CROs, working as an in-house CRA, a CRA, and then also working for both CROs as well as medical device companies as a clinical project manager. I truly enjoy teaching because one of the things that I have discovered is, especially when we look at today's training on adverse events, sometimes this can be a little tricky for investigative sites to understand, and also us as a CRA. So I welcome you to our session today. Let's look at our introduction. As CRAs, we know that our role is ensuring that our investigator and their team has captured adverse events. And we also know that investigators and their team typically are very good at capturing adverse events. But you may have discovered that sometimes the investigator has not captured an adverse event. So you as the CRA, during your monitoring of the subject's medical records, have discovered that there was an adverse event that wasn't reported. I believe that we can help educate our sites about adverse events, what adverse events are, and also the understanding of adverse events through our course today. Also, too, we can make a huge impact as CRAs in our teaching of our investigational sites as to why we're collecting adverse events. For example, we know as the CRA, if we neglect to do our duty in monitoring, or if the investigative site fails to report an adverse event, it can lead to two things. First, it could have inaccurate labeling for clinical trials. And secondly, it can impact the market application and inspectional reviews, as well as the post-marketing labeling. So we know that it is critical in the capturing and reporting of adverse events because this ultimately is protecting our subjects that are participating in clinical trials. So let's look at our objectives for today's module. I won't go over these in detail, but we are going to look at how we are going to define adverse events and why this is important for us to capture adverse events. When do we start and stop collecting adverse events for a particular clinical trial? And also, too, what type of documentation is necessary to support this adverse event? We'll also look at some of the challenges that our CRAs are facing when monitoring adverse events, and also who is the appropriate person at the investigational site to make that determination as far as causality of that adverse event. Is it related to the investigational product or not? And for a medical device, is it related to the investigational product or the procedure or something else? And so this is important, and we're also going to talk about some of the trends in reporting of adverse events. I did provide you a total of 6 handouts that you received electronically prior to today's course. These are very important, I think, especially looking at the guidance document for our clinical investigator sponsors and IRBs and how adverse events are reported.